What's up, everybody? Welcome back. I am Brian Jester, co-founder here at Occupy Fantasy, single game $1 million winner. We're here with some NFL DFS picks and lineup advice for tonight's single game showdown slate: Monday Night Football, FanDuel, DraftKings, New England Patriots, and the Buffalo Bills. In this video, we'll talk about low risk and high risk lineup construction types for DFS contests, injuries and inactives that will impact the slate, and strategies to help get you to the top of those contest leaderboards. Before we get started, make sure you subscribe to the channel, get notified when we go live, upload any new videos. We're so close to 3K subscribers. We're doing a 3K subscriber giveaway, so make sure you're subscribed. Helps us out, helps you out. Give us a thumbs up if you like the showdown content and want to see more of it. Any questions, comment on the video below or join our Discord server. Click join below the video, occupyfantasy.com/discord to chat it up with other members of the occupyfantasy.com community. So let's jump into it. Now, Bills, Patriots, divisional rivalry. Bills, small favorites, but the big question and issue with this game is the weather. We're talking I guess close to 30 miles per hour winds, 20 miles per hour sustained. We're talking near freezing temperatures, 30 degrees or so. Maybe some precipitation. So pretty terrible weather overall. And now weather generally is overstated in NFL DFS. But there are some slates where it does matter, and this is one of those slates. The total, and this is always the biggest indicator, does the total drop in the betting markets? This total opened 45 points or so. It's now down to 41 and a half, a 3.5 point total drop, the biggest total drop of the entire week. So the betting markets are expecting it, and we know historically that fantasy production drops when all these factors are combined. Let's take a look at the weather really quickly. So this is Dark Sky, one of our preferred partners when it comes to weather and forecast. So we see this is in Buffalo Orchard Park. By the time the game kicks off, we're nearing that freezing temperature mark. As the temperature drops, fantasy production, specifically passing production, drops. And once we get below that freezing mark, then we start to see a significant drop off. So we're there once the game starts. Precipitation doesn't look too bad. I don't think precipitation will be a factor tonight. But the biggest one is the wind. I mean, we're talking 20 miles per hour or more for the entire game. 15 miles per hour is that mark where passing production starts to drop. 20 miles, 25 miles per hour, that's when it significantly drops. And we should see that for the entirety of the game. And again, the betting markets have picked up on this. So this really should dictate how we play the slate. So let's jump back over to DraftKings. And injury news, not a ton to talk about. Everyone that has been playing is expected to play. The biggest change is the likely activation of Zach Moss. Zach Moss has been one of the Bills running backs for most of the year. If you remember, he was a healthy scratch in week 1. He was a healthy scratch last week, and beat reporters predicted this. Those same beat reporters are expecting Zach Moss to be active tonight for a variety of reasons. Mostly, it's going to be a cold weather game. He's the pounder. They're getting the right tackle back. Should be a run-heavy game plan with the weather and the wind. And Zach Moss is their best running back suited for that, so the beat reporters are expecting him to be active. Now, if you're looking for Zach Moss in the player pool, oh yeah, he's $600 in the flex, $900 at captain, and should, at minimum, split work with Devin Singletary and Matt Breida. At his price, a couple of carries may be all he needs. Now, if we go over to FanDuel, just really quickly to see where Moss slots in the salary, he's the cheapest Bills running back at $7K, definitely underpriced there as well. Not as egregious as DraftKings, but still underpriced. So, all this into consideration, let's talk about low-risk lineups. 50-50s, double-ups, head-to-heads, contests where you just have to beat half the field to double your money. If you know our preferred strategy, if you've watched these videos, you've read our showdown guide, you know that we want to get 2 quarterbacks, 2 running backs. Try to lock up all the scoring. Now, when there's some split backfields, it's a little different. It makes it tougher. But we know, let's see here. So Josh Allen, let's get him in. With the Zach Moss likely news and with some of the other value, Josh Allen's going to be like nearly 100% in all contest types. Going to be the most popular captain. People aren't even going to consider the weather. It doesn't happen. People will think about it, but the weather generally doesn't impact ownership for showdown slates. So Josh Allen going to be the most popular captain. And again, still on a low scoring slate, he can score 15 points, 18 points, be the top scorer, right? That's all he needs. So we get both quarterbacks, Mac Jones, Josh Allen. On the New England side, Damian Harris has been splitting more work with Ramondre Stevenson lately. They have been blowouts. If this game stays closer, maybe Harris gets more work. But Harris does get the primarily most of the red zone and goal line work. So he's the running back we'd want in low risk contests. Zach Moss, again, $600. We're going to get him in. He's the cheap guy. Matt Breida has been seeing more red zone work lately, but Zach Moss generally has been the goal line guy. If we want to lock up touchdowns, he's the guy we'd probably want. This leaves us 6,400 left per player. A lot of different ways we can play it. We can go with someone like Diggs, who's going to be very popular, and now we just fit in a player that works. We could play a couple of defenses. The one position I would not play is kickers because of the weather. You know, fourth downs, any significant length in field goals, teams are going to go for it. If they do try it, field goals are going to be tough to come by in 30 miles per hour winds. Try to avoid kickers if you can, especially in low-risk lineups. But get this core into your lineup, figure out the rest. FanDuel, kind of the same, right? Josh Allen MVP, Mac Jones, Damian Harris, Zach Moss is 7K. Let's get him in. 8K left. Whoever your favorite remaining value, high floor play is, get him into your lineup. So low-risk lineups look pretty easy. I think we can easily make those lineups, have a good chance of cashing tonight. But we do have to monitor the news. Let's monitor the weather throughout the day, and let's make sure that Zach Moss, come 6:50 p.m. Eastern, is indeed active for the Bills. Now, high-risk contests, this is where it gets super interesting because if Moss is active, even if Moss isn't active, salary is basically non-existent tonight. Any salary constraint non-existent because Zach Moss is $600, right? He could easily, if he's a top scorer, he could outscore guys that are like 7, 8K higher than him, right? So that any combination is possible with him. Lower scoring game, if this game goes under the total, scores less than 40 points, that's when we see more salary resistant lineups come to the top. That's how I won my milli. The Super Bowl went way under the total, left $2,200 left over. Very possible for that type of game to happen tonight as well, which means salary literally does not matter. And we saw a very similar slate earlier this year where salary didn't matter as much. And a lot of the pros were using less than 47,500. That was kind of the high range, right? So that's pretty crazy. You think about $2,500 left over at the top end. And that was a pro-heavy slate. So if you're playing tournaments, high-risk contests, mostly large field, right? Small field, you don't have to get that crazy. But large field, you're trying to get different, trying to find the optimal lineup. I mean, consider 47.5 as your ceiling, maybe 48. Go all the way down to 42.5, 43 total salary. That's how crazy it is. For me personally, we saw a similar game in Indy and San Francisco earlier in the year where the weather was an impact. It was crazy winds. For that slate, and I'm thinking about deploying the same approach tonight, go heavy on the run games, heavy on the defenses, even at captain, right? If a defense scores 15, 18, 20 points, they could be the top scorer in this game. The biggest difference between that game and this game, obviously, is Josh Allen, who is a great fantasy quarterback, not like Wentz or Garoppolo. So he could get there on his running. We'll see what the Patriots do. But again, Josh Allen, 11,200. If he scores, 14 or 15, a pretty floor game in a terrible weather game, won't be the optimal captain, right? A defense could outscore him. Not saying you definitely have to exclude him overall, but playing a running back or defense in captain is a very plus EV move tonight, given the weather circumstances. So who's that mean? Damian Harris. It could mean Ramondre Stevenson. It could mean any of the Bills running backs. Could Zach Moss be the optimal captain at $600 or $900, whatever it may be? It's possible, right? If he gets a couple touchdowns, it's a low-scoring game. They run him 15 times. It's possible. It seems crazy, but we've seen a lot of crazy stuff happen in Showdown over the years. So to me, Josh Allen's going to be like 35% at captain. I would avoid him. Play running backs and defenses at captain for large field contests. Small field contests, again, you could play it a little more straight to the vest, but I would still go running backs there. Running backs include Josh Allen in the flex, play defenses, get closer to the salary cap, because you don't need to be perfect in small field contests. You just need to get first place out of a couple hundred people. FanDuel, definitely the same approach. We expect Allen to be incredibly popular. People not even going to consider the weather, right? So if you play Damian Harris, Zach Moss, these types of guys have a run-heavy approach in your high-risk contests at MVP, you can still play Josh Allen in the flex if you want, right? He's still likely to be a top 5 scorer. And again, salary is not going to matter as much on a lower scoring slate with some mispriced players. Playing running backs at MVP, always a preferred approach in lower scoring games, especially on FanDuel. So Lots to think about tonight. We do have to monitor the weather throughout the day to make sure this forecast does indeed hold. We have to make sure Zach Moss is active later today. But it's funny because throughout the year we get so many questions about weather, but when weather actually impacts the slate, the field actually doesn't compensate as much as they should. So the totals has told us all we need to know. It's dropped 3.5 points, maybe more, over the course of the week. Weather is going to be a factor tonight with these coaches, with the personnel on both sides. It should be a run-heavy game, lower scoring game, which should mean defenses and running backs near the top. It's a good way to play it. So appreciate you listening. Before we get out of here, make sure you subscribe to the channel. We're so close to 3K. It helps you out because you get notified when we go live, upload any new videos, get you entered into the 3K subscriber giveaway. It also helps us out. We appreciate that. Give us that thumbs up if you like the content. Helps us help you. Any questions, you can always comment on the video. We'll answer them throughout the day. A little bit tougher when it's like an hour before lock and we get questions. So try to hop in our Discord server if you can chat with other members of Occupy Fantasy. So Brian Jester for Occupy, we appreciate you listening. Good luck tonight, and we'll talk to you soon.